Last item for conduct of business, adopt a resolution approving the installation of pedestrian safety improvements at the Cherry Avenue, Grundy Lane intersection.
Good evening, honorable mayors and members of the City Council. The item in front of you tonight is in regards to the pedestrian improvements at the intersection of Cherry Avenue and Grundy Lane located at the Bay Hill Business Park. Google YouTube currently occupies 2 buildings at 900 and 901 Cherry Avenue, and is also performing tenant improvements at 1000 Cherry Avenue. They expect these tenant improvements to be completed soon, and the building is anticipated to be occupied within the next 2 to 3 months. When all 3 buildings are occupied, they anticipate a total of 1,200 employees working within these 3 buildings. And this intersection of Cherry Avenue and Grundy Lane is used by employees as well as the residents throughout the day. The existing intersection consists of a crosswalk on Cherry Avenue that is approximately 80 feet wide across the roadway, and it's uncontrolled. The crossing is considered an uncontrolled crosswalk because it doesn't have any traffic lights or stop signs. At Grundy Lane, there is an existing stop control there. Google approached the city staff in late 2015 to discuss the pedestrian improvements, as they were concerned about the safety of their employees crossing the intersection and expressed interest in improving it. Google representatives submitted conceptual design plans for city staff review. The improvements that Google presented included addition of new crosswalks at the southern end of Cherry Avenue, installing rectangular flashing beacons at the crossings across Cherry Avenue and Grundy Lane, adding high visibility striping, installing pedestrian warning signs and curb ramps, and adding new street lighting. So staff reviewed the proposed conceptual improvements and provided recommendations to Google, which they incorporated as shown in this slide. The recommended changes included removing the northern crosswalk since a new crosswalk is being proposed at the southern end. And also, staff recommended the removal of the pedestrian warning across Grundy Lane, which is not required due to existing stop control. Then on January 6th, the conceptual design improvements were brought to the Traffic Safety and Parking Committee, a meeting for the determination and recommendation to the City Council today. The TSPC members discussed the safety improvements and recommended to keep the existing northern crosswalk so pedestrians have an option to choose where they would like to cross. The TSPC members and police department also discussed the installation of a median barrier along Cherry Avenue to prevent illegal mid-block crossings. The recommendation for installing a median barrier was based on observations by the San Bruno Police Department that pedestrians are frequently crossing mid-block on Cherry near the Google and Walmart offices. The police department has observed over 40 pedestrian violations for crossing outside these crosswalks, and they also met with both Google and Walmart administration on 3 separate occasions since July 2015 to discuss the pedestrian crossing issues. Although these companies have agreed to send out company-wide communications advising staff of the required use of the crosswalk, they have a little effect. But currently, staff is recommending the council to adopt a resolution to approve the installation of the pedestrian safety improvements, since Google is anticipating to occupy the building at 1000 Cherry within the next 2 to 3 months. Google has agreed to perform the detailed design and construction of these improvements at no cost to the city, and staff will be reviewing the design for compliance with city standards prior to issuing an encroachment permit to Google for installation of these improvements. And maintenance of these improvements will be the city's responsibility after a 1-year construction warranty period. And in regards to the median barrier, staff is recommending to defer the implementation until the city determines the type of barrier that should be placed in the median. And staff can discuss the improvements with Google and Walmart for the installation of these barriers. As for the fiscal impact of this project, is limited to the staff time for review of the design submittal since Google will pay for all the cost of the improvements and city's inspection cost. This concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff on this? Ken?
Thank you, Jimmy. You answered most of my questions, and actually part of my last question, which was the median barrier. I'd like to have some public review, whether it's planning commission or something, or even the city council, so that we can get some idea of what is being proposed. It's the first time something like this is taking place, and I've seen nice decorative barriers, low barriers that have hindered crossings in San Francisco and such too. So that
I had a little hunch that there
Well,
was
you
gonna be
got-
some
you got
questions.
something, huh?
Yeah, I do. I do have some question. This is the existing layout that's there, right? There's no center line, the median barrier. But this is what Redwood City had installed over in Veterans Boulevard. It's about a 3-foot high fencing. And this is what San Carlos has on San Carlos Avenue, some wires and some posts, preventing people from blocking. But it's something that we can definitely look into, the type of barriers to install.
Good. Anything else for staff? Action by the council? Sorry.
I just had a quick.
Just tell us your name and your street.
Room for public comment. Gerald Posky, Transportation Planner for Google. Just to say, we're happy to be here, happy to be engaged. We always look for ways to improve pedestrian and bicycle safety. We saw this opportunity, and we've been happy to work with staff. As was pointed out, we would be willing to fund and implement it fully at our cost. And we would just say that right now, when there's not a safe, well-lit crosswalk, it's not surprising that people take the safety into their own hands. And hopefully with the installation of 3 well-lit crossing opportunities, that we would give that a shot before we try to put something that might be perceived as a barrier, not as attractive as the landscaping we have today.
Great. Thank you very much. It should be pointed out, too, that Google is bringing about another 900 people when the other Cherry Avenue buildings open up here pretty quick, so it's pretty important.
And mine is just a question maybe to the city manager going forward. And I know very clearly it says the city is limited, city is limited to staff time for review, and it's limited. So if we maybe in the future staff reports can quantify what limited means, 20 to 40 hours, and I'm not talking dollars because I know it depends on which staff, but just give us some more clarity for
Sure.
future
We'd be
staff
happy
reports.
to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else or action on this item?
I'll adopt the resolution.
Councilmember Ibera?
Aye.
Councilmember Rico Medina?
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Marty Medina?
Aye.
Mayor Ruane?
Aye.